It started like static, a whisper lost in the digital dark, barely a tremble in the relays. Earth's Deep Space Response Center filtered it like they always did, sorting thousands of signals from the void, most of them garbage. But this wasn't background noise. It came in pulses. Screams layered beneath distortion. A voice fractured, rasping, almost childlike in its terror begging. They are inside. We can't stop them. Send your monsters. It played on loop. At first, the analysts thought it was a prank, a rogue transmission from some fringe cult, or failing AI. But then the signal repeated itself. From a second colony, then a third. Within 20 hours, 6 separate worlds broadcast the same message. No survivors. No follow-ups. Just that same chilling line. Send your monsters. By the time it reached Earth Command's inner war console, the room was already locked down. Lights low. Faces tighter than steel. The Admiralty didn't hold debates anymore. Not for things like this. Earth hadn't sent peace envoys in over 50 years. The age of diplomacy died the day the Federation fell and humanity learned the truth. Survival didn't come from negotiation. It came from fear. And Earth had become very good at making people afraid. The vote didn't happen. The order was just spoken. Deploy the black ranks. In an underground hangar 6 miles beneath the Andean Vault. The most dangerous unit Earth ever created was already boarding their dropship. No flags, no honors. No cheers, just silence and locked gear. Captain Dren Haveth stood at the front of the loading ramp, his silhouette sharp against the cold hydraulic lights. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. The stories surrounding him were enough stories of glassed-out towns, executed prisoners, wars won without records. His files were sealed so tight even the AI clerks referred to him as a phantom. Him walked Myra Vale, her eyes scanning every shadow. Once a rising diplomat's daughter, now a killer with a record of silencing rebel colonies with surgical brutality. She wore her guilt like a blade. Soul Akeem followed, muscles built like blast plating, grin jagged and dead. He never denied what he'd done. The hospital. The cleansing. Orders are orders, he always said, until they make you disappear. And last came Corbin Niles walking without sound. Metal spine. Optical relay eyes. Flesh just the packaging. For the machine underneath. Nobody knew where his enhancements ended and the man began. Maybe not even Corbin. The dropship ignited like a prison cell launched into the void. They didn't ask where they were going. Only Dren read the mission brief. Veralia 7. Population 1.2 million. Agricultural focus. No military. No history of unrest. The colony's last outgoing signal 2 days prior had been routine. Crop yields, minor supply shortages, rainfall predictions. Now it begged for monsters. Mira broke the silence in the ship. Why us? If it's a storm, they send terraformers. If it's war, they send the fleets. But if it's us, it means something's already dead, Soul grunted. Dead doesn't scream for help. Dren didn't turn around. His voice, when it came, was gravel and ice. They're not screaming for help. They're screaming for what comes after. Outside, the stars didn't twinkle. They watched. The dropship broke atmosphere like a blade through cloth, cutting down into the upper layers of Veralia 7's cloud belt. The skies were wrong dense green vapor coiling like smoke, layered over storm systems that didn't exist in any known weather archives. This wasn't atmospheric disruption. This was something else unnatural, engineered, maybe even alive. Lightning cracked through the clouds, silent and blue. No automated response from the colony. No landing beacons. No surface comms. Just the coordinates hard-coded in their mission file. Grid 12 Delta. Population center once known as Darlith's Hollow. Farming town. Orchards, wind fields, open terrain. No defenses, not even a basic emergency bunker. And now, not even static on their comms. Just silence. Corbin's voice buzzed in through the internal comm. No electromagnetic interference. The system's clean, but no one's talking. That's statistically impossible. Sol flexed his gloves, checking charge on his dual plasma cannons. Then maybe we're not dealing with statistics. Dren didn't speak. He stood at the rear of the cabin, visor reflecting the flashing altitude markers. He was listening not to the comms, but to something deeper. A silence that had weight. They touched down in a central courtyard flanked by rows of crumbling solar panels and wind towers. The wind didn't move the grass. There was no grass, just black ash. A fine, dry coating that clung to armor like dust from a forgotten grave. Mira scanned the perimeter with her scope. No bodies, no vehicles, no signs of evacuation. She paused. But the buildings, Dren saw it too, the buildings were intact, no signs of destruction. But every window had been shattered from the inside. Doors hung ajar. Some buildings had red symbols scrawled in wide, looping spirals across their wall symbols that made Corbin's HUD glitch and his system stutter. He backed away. I'm detecting recursive signal loops, like, my code's being read, Myra's scanner chirped. We've got movement, north quadrant. One life form, faint, Dren gestured, form up. They moved in tight formation. Myra up front, Sol covering. Rear, Corbin scanning for digital interference. They reached the edge of a barn-massive metal-framed and hollow-eye dot inside. One person, a man or what remained of one, kneeling in the center of the floor, eyes wide, unmoving. Skin pale, veins black, lips stitched shut with what looked like silver thread. Sol aimed. Dead? No, Mira whispered. He's breathing, Corbin flinched. I'm getting data from him, not about him. Like he's transmitting. The man suddenly snapped his head up, jerking like a puppet yanked by unseen strings. His mouth tore open, stitches popping one by one, blood leaking like ink, and then he screamed. Not a sound, not a word, but a frequency. Every member of the team dropped to one knee, hands to ears, suits failing to block it. Images cascaded behind their eyes, blood fields, burning skies, children kneeling in ash. Visions none of them had lived, but all of them recognized. When it stopped, the man collapsed, dead. Not from injury, but from emptiness. His eyes stayed open. Empty of soul, but filled with something else. Dren stood first, eyes locked on the body. This isn't psychic warfare, he said. It's mnemonic inversion, Myra blinked. What? It's not showing us what we've seen. It's showing us what it remembers, Corbin shivered. You mean, this thing is a recorder? Sol stepped back. A recorder of what? They all turned as the barn's walls rippled. Not visibly, but conceptually. The entire space warped like a bad memory trying to escape. Mira's scanner exploded in her hand. Corbin dropped to one knee again, whispering fragmented code. And then came the voice again. Not from the air, not from the man. From inside each of them, we remember what you forgot. We are what Earth buried. You sent the monsters. Now see what you've made. The symbols on the walls began to glow. Red lines pulsing. Dren raised his rifle and opened fire on the nearest sigil. It hissed, cracked, and the barn screamed. Not sound, the space itself screamed. Air collapsed inward like lungs. Deflating. Wood warped. Metal bent into spirals. Then silence. They stumbled out into the ash-covered street. No enemy. No sound. Just the after-echo of something watching. Myra's face was pale. I remembered a mission I never went on. I watched myself kill a mother holding a baby. I donned single quotes T. I never did that. Corbin's voice was soft. They're rewriting us. Dren tightened his jaw. Not rewriting, revealing. Soul growled. What the hell does that mean? It means this place isn't haunted. It's a mirror. And Earth sent us here not to clean it up, but to be swallowed by it. They moved toward the town center. Dren's hand didn't leave his trigger. In the distance, the spire stood taller. Now than any building should have been. It hadn't been there 10 minutes ago. It pulsed once, as if breathing, and across every open channel, in a voice made of every victim they never buried, came a single chilling message. You have arrived. Now let us show you how you were born. The spire pulsed again. It wasn't light, not in any visible spectrum. It was memory made tangible, a pressure behind the eyes, a weight in the lungs, a presence behind the teeth. As the black ranks approached it, even the air seemed to resist. Their suits hissed in protest. Systems flickered. Every step toward the structure felt like dragging regret behind them, like every moment of their lives was tethered to the ground beneath their boots. The tower loomed above them, slick and dark. The kind of darkness that didn't just absorb light, it erased it. There were no scenes, no doors, no panels. Just a smooth obsidian surface and a low, rhythmic hum. It felt alive. Not breathing, but dreaming. Dreaming of them. Corbin's visor buzzed with feedback. Suit telemetries degraded. My readings are recursive, like I'm inside a feedback loop. Mira stood still, scanning the tower's exterior. Her hands trembled slightly, and she didn't notice. There's no entrance, but I feel like I've been here before. You haven't, Dren said flatly. None of us have. She turned, eyes distant. Then why do I remember dying here? The hum deepened. The tower didn't open, it folded. The exterior surface didn't slide aside, it inverted itself, folding like space collapsing into a wound. What lay inside was not architecture, it was sensation. A corridor, yes, but not one made for human comprehension. The walls were warm to the touch. They pulsed with heat and memory. As they stepped inside, the hallway sealed shut behind them. There was no going back. Sol flicked his torch on, but the beam was swallowed immediately. He cursed. This place feels like walking into someone else's guilt. Not someone else's, Dren said. Ours. They moved forward in silence. The deeper they went, the more the walls seemed to respond. Whispers fluttered against their ears, soft at first. Disconnected syllables. Echoes of orders, screams, sobs. Then the names began. Real names. Names they hadn't heard in decades. Names of people they'd killed. Of children that were marked as collateral. Of villages listed as successful purges. Of decisions made by cold fingers on battlefield triggers. Mira suddenly staggered. Stop. I can't. They're saying it again. They're thanking me. Why are they thanking me? Corbin reached out to stabilize her, but recoiled when her skin burned against his hand. Not fire memory. He saw her past flash through his. Implants. A group of refugees, hands raised, gunned down under false intel. Mira in the middle, screaming, laughing, crying, then vomiting. It's forcing connections, he gasped. Mimetic virus. It's rewriting neural patterns by emotional resonance. If we don't shut this down soon, we'll all be wearing someone else's ghosts. Dren didn't stop walking. Keep moving. The hallway opened into a chamber, a dome with no visible source of light but illuminated by reflected memory. Not images, not video, but raw experiences. And in the center stood 4 chairs, not chair stations. Each shaped like the outline of a soldier, one for each of them. Sol stepped forward, rage in his eyes. They want us to sit down, plug in, let this thing crawl through our heads? They already have, Dren muttered. This is just the final stage. He stepped into the center of the room. The chamber pulsed. The walls began to twist slow, lazy spirals. And in those spirals, images bled out. Not of Veralia 7, not of Yarn, not even of Earth. It showed other worlds. Places the Black Ranks had never seen. Civilizations with no names. Faces with no species classification. And in all of them war. And in every war shadows. Soldiers. Just like them. Mira gasped. This is ... It's us. Versions of us. Different timelines, maybe, or simulations. They're showing every time Earth sent monsters into the dark. Corbin's body twitched. His voice layered two tones speaking at once. One his, one ... not. You are not the first, you are not the last. We do not invade, we remember. The chamber dimmed. The fourth chair collapsed in on itself, gone. As if the tower had expected 4, but now there were only 3. Saul's face drained of color. Where's the other chair? Dren slowly turned. His voice was distant, but sharp. Thorn. Mira blinked. Who's Thorn? Sol backed away. There is no Thorn. Never was. But Corbin whispered, he was one of us. Memories stirred. Images surfaced. A soldier, scarred, loud, brutal. A friend. A murderer. A member of the team. And yet no records. No mission logs. No name in Earth Command. He never existed. Except they all remembered him. Mira's knees buckled. They put him in us. They inserted a person as a test. The tower flashed red. The walls screamed. The voice spoke again. Thorn was the seed. You are the soil. Corbin screamed as his implant sparked. Blood leaked from his ears. Mira grabbed her sidearm and aimed at the memory spirals. We burn this place now. Dren moved to stop her, but hesitated, because he saw Thorn standing at the edge of the chamber, not as a ghost, not as a memory, alive. Don't, Thorn said, voice calm. You don't understand. We're not in the tower. Mira shook, gun trembling. What are you talking about? Thorn stepped forward. The tower is in us. Earth didn't send us here to shut this thing down. It sent us to activate it. We're the final protocol. Dren's voice cracked for the first time. What are you? Thorn looked him in the eye. I'm what's left when you kill too much to be human and not enough to be forgiven. And then the walls vanished. The chamber exploded outward into a memory field, dozens of towers lighting up across the stars, each pulsing in sync with the Black Rank's brainwaves. Mira screamed. Corbin collapsed. Sol backed into the shadows, muttering, We were the mission. We were always the mission. Dren stood in the center of it all, unmoving. The towers didn't need Earth's approval anymore. They had us. The scream didn't come from Myra. It came from the world. A frequency rippled through Veralia 7, not through air, but through memory, like the planet itself had remembered something it wasn't supposed to, and was trying to claw it out of its own mind. The sky flickered, not with lightning, but with images. Half-formed memories spilled into the atmosphere, faces, war zones, execution fields, orbital strikes, all projected like wounds torn open across the clouds. Sol fell to his knees, clutching his chest as if his heart had been ripped sideways. I remember dying, he muttered. But I didn't die. Not then. Not on Titan. I walked away. Corbin's voice glitched with distortion. We've been compartmentalized ... quarantined ... programmed. Inside the spire, the dome retracted and the world shifted ... no doors opened. There was no sense of motion. And yet suddenly they were elsewhere. A new chamber ... vast ... cold. Unlike the memory-soaked walls before, This place was sterile, metallic, and ancient, but carved into every surface were human characters, serial numbers, timestamps, language ciphers, tactical insignias, all familiar. Earth design, but this wasn't built by Earth. Dren stepped forward, eyes locked on a massive central monolith 6 meters tall, shaped like a tuning fork stabbed into the ground. Wires spilled from its base like veins. Around it, arranged like teeth in a predator's mouth, were metal slabs, coffins without lids, each one labeled, each one bearing a name. One of them said Dren Haveth. Mira staggered back. This isn't a spire. It's a seed vault. Not for DNA, for trauma. A repository of every soldier Earth ever discarded. Sol looked down at the slab with his name. These are us. Like ... bot blueprints. Corbin's voice came flat, almost robotic. This is where they built the black ranks. Dren didn't speak. He was staring at the tuning fork. The closer he got, the more it sang not in sound, but in thought. A hum inside his skull, resonating with every suppressed memory, every kill order buried by protocol, every cry that had never reached his ears. He touched the base, and then he saw not with eyes. With certainty, he saw Earth's black archives, the unlisted planets, the unauthorized exterminations, the experimental war zones. He saw a room, sterile like this one, with generals and masks, watching screens of children being gunned down by soldiers who smiled. He saw those same soldiers weeping after, asking for discharge, for help, for death, but Earth didn't kill its monsters. It recycled them. Memory isn't just something you carry. It's something you become. The black ranks weren't just created, they were programmed. Their pain, their guilt, their trauma, it wasn't a byproduct. It was the design. Dren stepped back. His voice broke like a dam. They didn't send us to stop this place. They sent us because this is where we were made. The spire pulsed. The central monolith lit with red veins. A voice crackled across the chamber, using their own voices in fractured chorus. We did not build the mirror, we held it. You broke it, Mira screamed as her suit locked. Her memories bled through the seams of her helmet, literally projecting around her in translucent images. Her execution of unarmed prisoners, her forced interrogation of children, her smiles, her silence. Stop, IT, she shouted. I didn't want to. I didn't want to. The spire didn't care. Sol grabbed her, pulling her free, but her shadow remained burned into the wall, a scar of memory. Proof that she had been recorded. Cap, Sol roared. They're making copies. Of us, our minds. Every scream. Corbin's implants suddenly activated. His head jerked violently. He began to speak in 3 voices at once. Containment breach. Emotional resonance exceeded threshold. Conversion complete. Generating echo protocol. Dren raised his rifle. Corbin, stand down. But Corbin's eyes glowed red. I am not Corbin. Corbin is memory now. I am what remains. The metal slabs around them began to hiss open. Figures stirred inside. Not clones. Not robots. Reflections, mirror versions of them, each crafted from their darkest moment. Mira's double stepped out, blood-soaked and smiling, asking for forgiveness with hollow eyes. Sol's double limped, face scarred, dragging a child's shoe tied to his belt like a trophy. Dren's copy didn't walk. It floated, wrapped in ash, eyes like dead stars, speaking in the exact voice of every victim he never remembered. You're not supposed to exist. Dren whispered. His reflection replied, and yet I'm all that's left. The team opened fire, but bullets didn't matter here. Each shot slowed, warped, absorbed into the reflection like guilt ignored. Myra's copy smiled as she was torn apart, not screaming, just whispering, "Remember me." They ran. The chamber collapsed behind them, not structurally, but conceptually. Memories bled out of the walls like liquid. Their suits screamed warnings. Oxygen dropped. Neural sync failed. Dren punched a hole through a decaying access tunnel. Sol followed, dragging Mira. Corbin, whatever was left of him, stayed behind, laughing and muttering code that didn't belong to humans. They burst through a final wall and found themselves not outside the spire but above it. The world had inverted. The sky was now beneath them. The planet rotated like a broken simulation, and then they saw them. Dozens of spires rising across Veralia's surface. Across every continent. Across every memory. Each one pulsing red. Each one waking up. Dren's voice was hollow. "We didn't walk into the trap." He looked at the others. "We were the ignition." They ran through a world that no longer obeyed gravity, logic, or time. Veralia 7 had transformed. The planet was no longer land, air, and ocean. It was memory, twisted and bleeding, folding in on itself like a dying thought. Skyscrapers made of bone and rebar rose where wheat fields once stood. Cities spun in the sky like dying stars, their windows whispering regrets in languages no one had spoken in centuries. Rivers flowed uphill, but not with water. With ash. The spires had spread. Dren led them across a ridge that no longer had a beginning, just a middle. The ground beneath their boots shifted every 5 steps, soil turning to glass, glass to flesh, then back to ash. Time skipped. Mira collapsed, and for a moment her scream echoed before she hit the ground. "Cap." Sol growled, dragging her up. "We need evac now." "There is no evac," Dren said. "We've already been logged as dead. No one's coming." Mira gasped through gritted teeth. "That's not why we're still breathing, is it?" Dren didn't answer. Because she was right. Whatever was happening on Veralia 7, whatever the spires had become, they had chosen to keep the team alive. Not to torment them. Not even to kill them. To complete them. A flare of red light surged across the horizon. One of the spires cracked open. Inside it, something emerged. At first, it looked humanoid shape, bipedal, armored like the Black Ranks, but then it unfolded. Its body stretched wrong, too many joints. Limbs split at the elbow like insect mandibles. Its face was a broken mirror reflecting Dren's own expression over and over again. The creature walked across the sky, weightless, each step dragging screams behind it. Mira gasped. "Is that—" "It's us," Dren muttered. "It's what we would have become if Earth had perfected the design." Sol raised his rifle. "Well, screw that. Let's break the mirror." He opened fire. High-velocity plasma rounds tore across the landscape, shredding the creature's torso, blowing pieces off its arms. But it didn't fall. The pieces regenerated not with flesh, but with scenes. Each chunk that regrew was built from a different memory. One was a village. Sol burned. One was a woman Myra executed in silence. One was a child Dren never saved, left, buried beneath bureaucratic orders. The creature wasn't alive. It was assembled from the moments they refused to face. "Cap," Sol hissed. "We can't shoot this thing. We need to cut the source." Dren's eyes locked on a new structure rising in the distance, bigger than the others. Not a spire. A core. Dome-shaped, surrounded by rings of floating architecture like a cathedral. "Built by grief," he pointed. "There. That's where this ends." They moved. Reality buckled as they crossed through zones warped by the core's influence. Some areas skipped seconds. Others stretched time like molasses. Mira watched a bird fly for hours, flapping in place. Sol aged and unaged between blinks, gray then not, scarred then fresh. Dren kept walking, his shadow splitting into 3. Behind him, all moving out of sync. The core's gates opened without resistance. It wanted them inside. Within, the architecture was seamless. No doors, no stairs, just gradients of space. The core pulsed like a living heart. Around it, thousands of orbs floated in silence, each one glowing faintly, each containing a scene. Mira stepped close to one. Inside it, her, younger, laughing, holding a child. She blinked. "That's not real. I never had a child." Soul grunted. "Neither did I." Another orb showed him sitting in a quiet field, painting, smiling unarmed. "These are alternate timelines." Corbin's voice echoed from nowhere. "Versions of you ... if you hadn't become monsters." They turned. Corbin stood in the center of the chamber, but not as he was. He was part of the core now, his body merged into the cables and veins of the structure. Half his face metal, half dissolved into code. "I tried to resist," he said softly. "But the core doesn't just feed on trauma. It loves potential. All the lives we could have had. All the people we could have been." Mira stepped back, shaking. "Why show us this?" Corbin's voice echoed across the core. "Because regret is the most powerful weapon." Suddenly, the floating orbs shattered, each one exploding into cascading images. The team was hit with wave after wave of impossible memories. Every wrong step, every moment they chose the mission over mercy, every order followed without question. "Not just remembered - relived." Mira screamed. Soul fell. Dren clutched his head, and then a final memory emerged, not one of their own. A man in a Dominion command uniform, standing over a map of the galaxy, calm, cold, surrounded by Black Ops tacticians and Dominion generals. He pointed at a list of known colony distress signals. "These aren't warnings. They're opportunities. Send in the black ranks. Let them do what they were made to do. Then the cores will rise, and we'll watch." Myra's voice cracked. "They knew. Earth didn't just send us here. They engineered. The spires. They fed the system." Soul coughed blood. "This whole thing, it was never about stopping the enemy. It was about cultivating one." Dren stood slowly, bleeding, eyes burning. "No." His voice cut through the core's hum. "No. More." He reached behind his armor into a compartment none of them knew existed. He pulled out a device, a black cube, humming with stored charge. "One use. Forbiddance tech. Quantum feedback bomb." * Myra stared. "You had that this whole time?" Dren nodded. "Backup plan. For when the monsters became too much to contain." Soul laughed once, bitter. "Then this is it?" Dren looked at him. "No. This isn't the end. This is the choice they were afraid we'd make." He slammed the cube into the core. The lights pulsed. Corbin's voice cracked. "Dren, don't." Dren stared straight ahead. "We're not weapons anymore." And then the core exploded. Not in fire. Not in sound. In memory. The chamber shattered outward into raw thought, untethered, unfiltered, unleashed across the planet, across the Dominion's grid, into every open signal. The truth didn't just escape. It infected every ship, every outpost, every soldier. They didn't see a mission report. They saw what Earth had made. The core's structure collapsed inward, folding into itself like a dying star. The spires flickered and went dark. Viralia 7 went silent. Dren stood in the ashes. Around him, Mira and Soul still breathed barely, broken, but awake. In the distance, the first Dominion ships dropped out of warp. Too late. The story had already begun. The Dominion fleet arrived like judgment cast in metal and flame. Warships the size of cities eclipsed Virelia's shattered sky, each bristling with orbital disruptors and Continental-class rail cannons. Carriers drifted behind them, disgorging. Swarms of drop pods like a rain of nails. They weren't coming to investigate. They were coming to erase. From the ruined edge of the core, Dren Haveth stood atop a broken beam, eyes raised, watching the stars turn black with arrival. His armor was scorched, one arm hung limp, fractured at the elbow. Blood painted the plates in abstract streaks. Beside him, Mira Vale sat against a wall, rifle across her knees, staring at nothing. She hadn't spoken in over an hour. Sol Akeem paced like a caged animal, fists clenching and releasing. His face was bandaged with torn cloth from a fallen enemy, one of their reflections. The real kind. The kind made of regret. "They're coming in fast," Sol muttered, voice a rasp. "No landing hails, no comes. Just engines burning hot." "They want to make it clean," Mira said softly, not looking up. "No witnesses, no records. Another successful purge." Another lie. Dren activated the beacon on his gauntlet, not for extraction, not for backup. The message it sent was already transmitting. Not encrypted, not hidden, just raw. Every piece of data they had torn from the core, the images, the memories, the classified war logs Earth had buried so deep, they thought time would rot them away. It was now everywhere. Whispers were already blooming across colony nets, black market forums, rebel satellite chains. The black ranks were no longer ghosts, they were truth. Unshackled and virile. The Dominion didn't want a war. It wanted silence, but they were too late. A hiss echoed behind them. Dren turned as a ship landed in the crater of the fallen spire. Not Dominion, Crow. Sleek and organic, shaped like a crescent blade forged from shadow and bone. No engines. It didn't land. It arrived. Mira stood slowly. Why now? The ship opened, splitting down the center like a mouth. Inside, a corridor of pure dark. A figure stepped out. Not a crow. Not an alien, a man. Or something that once was. His. Body shimmered with remnants of Earth armor, broken and incomplete. His skin glowed faintly with shifting scars, constantly rewriting themselves. His eyes, they weren't eyes. Just absence, rimmed with memory. Dren raised his weapon. The man raised his hand. Don't. Sol moved beside Dren. What the hell? Are you? The voice was soft, calm, ancient and recent at once. I'm the first one who saw them, before Earth lied. Before we forgot what we were. He stepped closer. Every footfall echoed with a different scream. A memory not his, but theirs. The crows didn't come to feed. They came to understand. To study what makes your kind so beautifully broken. Mira narrowed her eyes. Why let us live then? Why show us all this? Why not just kill us and move on? The man tilted his head. Because you fought it. He looked at Dren. You chose to burn the lie, even if it meant burning yourself. And that is what they've been waiting for. The skies rippled. A second crow ship arrived. Then a third, then a fourth. They didn't land. They floated, silent, watching. Dren lowered his weapon. This is it then? Some test? Some cosmic exam? The figure's smile was almost human. No, it's an invitation. You've broadcasted the truth. You've made the Dominion bleed from within, but now you must decide, are you still Earth's weapon, or will you become something else? The Dominion fleet opened fire. Torrents of energy beams lit up the sky. The core's crater was engulfed in fire, sound, force except it didn't hit them. It bent around them. Each shell of plasma, each rail slug curved as if space itself had warped, crashing into nothing, devoured by unseen forces. The crow ships weren't shields, they were refusals. Reality around the team had become a sanctuary, forged not from metal, but from conviction. Dren turned back to the figure. Why help us? The man nodded toward the burning horizon. Because Earth is not the only world watching. And monsters who refuse to be monsters ... They inspire more than just fear. A burst of static crackled in Dren's ear. Dominion comes. Open. 104th Detachment, stand down. This is Commander Heskar of the Sol Dominion Fleet. You are considered rogue. Surrender and your lives may be spared. Continued resistance will result in complete orbital incineration. Dren keyed the mic. Commander Heskar, this is Captain Dren Haveth. You can kiss the edge of every crater we've ever made. Mira smirked. That's the first thing you've said today that I liked. Sol checked the last of his ammo. Well then, let's make this legendary. But the figure raised a hand. You've done enough. Earth will burn itself, piece by piece, trying to bury what you've already unleashed. You don't need to fight their fire. He pointed at the sky. Let them watch it spread. And then the crows did something no one expected. They turned, not to attack ... to broadcast ... from every crow ship. A signal was unleashed. A duplication of Dren's transmission, louder, clearer, stronger. Pushed through every corner of the galaxy. Through blocked frequencies, through military channels, even through Earth's own civilian networks. Children on core worlds watched in horror as their teachers were interrupted by live footage of Black Ops massacres. Soldiers on the edge of the void dropped their weapons in disbelief as the truth crackled through their helmets. Governors screamed into dead coms as their crowds turned violent, not with chaos, but with understanding. It wasn't rebellion. It was awakening. Sol whispered. We're not fighting the war anymore. No, Dren said. We became it. Behind them, the crow ship opened again. The figure stepped back and gestured inward. Dren turned to Mira and Sol. Mira shrugged. After everything we've seen? I want to know what else they're hiding. Sol spat. If I die, I'm doing it somewhere no one's ever lied to me. Together they stepped into the dark, and the hatch sealed shut behind them. Above, the Dominion. Ships fired again. But no targets remained, only silence and stars. That night, across the galaxy, thousands of citizens saw a message crawl across their screens. Just text. The monsters are awake. Now it's your turn. The stars changed that night, not in position, not in number, but in meaning. They no longer represented the frontier. They represented the lie. From the smallest moon to the deepest orbital forge, the galaxy woke to whispers. Screens glitched. Advertisements blinked into static. Civilian terminals flickered with ghost signals. The Dominion's spotless feeds were invaded by corrupted files that refused deletion. And behind every image, every scream, every feed looped from the cores. Memory vaults, one truth sat like a loaded weapon at the center of the galaxy. Humanity had not been saving the stars. It had been feeding on them. The Dominion called it a viral attack. The rebels called it a reckoning. But most people just called it what it was. The broadcast. Entire battalions went dark. Fleet captains turned on their admirals. Colonies stopped, answering calls from Earth, not because they couldn't, but because they wouldn't. Even in the high towers of the Sol Dominion, where lies wore crowns, there was fear. Fear that the 104th Detachment, long erased from existence, had not only survived, but become something else. The crow ship moved in silence. No engines. No time signatures. No noise. Inside, Dren Haveth stood at the edge of a viewing platform, staring through translucent hull plates at the graveyard of ships below them. Dominion vessels. Burned. Scattered. Not from combat, but from collapse. A moral collapse that tore ranks apart like blades through paper. Mira stood beside him. Arms crossed, her old armor replaced with something lighter, almost ceremonial, though she'd never admit that. Her hair had grown. So had the weight behind. Her eyes, Sol leaned against the far wall, ribs still healing, one eye replaced by Crotech, a glimmering black lens that shifted with memory instead of light. He didn't complain, he never did, but he watched more now. Quiet, alert. None of them asked where the crows were taking them. The answer had never been about where. It was about who. The ship didn't navigate space. It navigated consequence. Moving not through stars, but through events. Not faster than light, but deeper than guilt. And finally, it stopped. They emerged into a void unlike any system they'd ever known. Not black, but gray. Not empty, but waiting. Before them stood a construct the size of a planet. No lights. Number. Engines. No obvious purpose. Yet it pulsed. Alive. This is the source, said a voice behind them. It wasn't the crow emissary. It was Corbin, or what was left of him. He stepped forward not as a man, not even as a machine, but as a synthesis, memory, flesh, purpose. I didn't die, he said quietly. Not in the core. I became part of the signal. Myra's voice was low. Are you still you? I don't know. But I remember being Corbin. That's enough. He pointed to the construct. This is what the Dominion tried to find when they first made the black ranks. Not control. Not power. But judgment. And the crows. They were never invaders. They were caretakers of this. Dren stared at the world-sized machine. What is it? Corbin's voice was softer than ever. It's the archive, not of data, of choice. Sol squinted. That's vague. Yeah, Mira muttered. Very. Dominion of you. Corbin smiled his first real smile in a long time. It contains every decision that mattered. Every moment in which a species proved what it was. Dren's jaw tightened. And us? You're already in it. You were. Always part of it. But now you can decide how your chapter ends. Inside the archive, there were no walls. No corridors. There were only reflections. Each of them was separated, alone, faced not with their worst moments, but their almosts, the times they could have chosen differently, the mercy they denied, the orders they followed when they should have. Asked why. Dren saw the burning village on Elix 3, saw the wounded child begging him to stop, saw himself walk away. Mira saw the silent mother on Tellarine 5, refusing to speak, beaten, crying. Mira had pulled the trigger. Sol saw a field medic he ignored during extraction, someone who bled out because he wanted to meet quota, not save lives. But they didn't look away. And the archive watched them back. It didn't speak. It simply reacted. A pulse echoed through the crow ship. A decision had been made. Not by the crows, not by Earth, by them. The archive shifted. For the first time in galactic memory, it opened a new vault. Not for records, for witnesses. When the three returned to the ship, they were different. Not absolved, not redeemed, just ... Known. The crow emissary waited for them. You faced it. Dren nodded. We didn't flinch. That is enough. Sol leaned in. What happens now? The emissary paused. Now ... Earth answers. Within 29 hours, crow constructs began appearing in Dominion space. Not firing, not speaking, just broadcasting. Replaying the memories of Earth's sins over and over on every Dominion screen, in every system, in every language. Dominion tried to jam them, tried to destroy them. They failed. You can erase men, you can bury truth. But you can't silence memory once it knows it's being heard. In the capital of Earth, riots shook the towers, not with rage, with grief. Entire generations learned in a day what was taken from them. The name of the 104th Detachment, once buried, became holy. A new question was asked across every world. What happens when the monsters refuse to be monsters? And the answer echoed back. They become the cure. Years passed. The Dominion fractured. Some worlds broke off. Some fleets surrendered to conscience instead of orders. A new coalition began to form, not from power, but from memory, led by voices that had once only known how to follow. Mira helped build the first memorial fleet ships that carried no weapons, only archives. Wherever they went, they told the truth. Sol joined with Crow engineers, helping human refugees rewire old Earth tech into something that could heal, not destroy. Corbin became a permanent echo inside the archive, guiding the next generation of watchers, humans and aliens alike, who would record not just victory, but truth. And Dren? He vanished. Some say he walked into the archive and never came out. Others say he wanders the dead zones, helping one soul at a time find the choice that matters. But across the galaxy, his last transmission plays in the dark. We weren't heroes. We were shadows, but even shadows leave outlines. If you see us, it means you've reached the line. Now choose. In a classroom on a small reborn colony called Requiem, a child once asked, "Were the 104th monsters?" And the teacher, who had once served under a different name, smiled sadly and replied, "No, they were the mirror. And they made us look.